Hey guys, Patrick from Iron Rock Off-Road here. Welcome back to our flex joint series. Today we're going to be doing our press-in upper control arm flex joint. Now we are going to be working with the JL here today, but these joints are offered in multiple sizes to support all the platforms that we support, to include an upsized hardware if you want to go heavy duty. Now we can take a look at this JL axle. It's still got a rubber on the passenger mount here. And then we've got a flex joint already pressed in to the driver mount and the casting there. So you might be kind of wondering why is this necessary? Why would I do this upgrade? Couple of the big things are going to be for maintenance purposes. A lot of times these bushings are blowing out and just need to be replaced. So if you're going to go through the work, why not upgrade? The nice part about it is once that rubber's pressed out and the flex joint's pressed in, your pressing days are done. From there, it's just maintenance if needed. Now, the other big upgrade is obviously going to be performance, the misalignment capability of the joint versus rubber. Now, I've got a male in here. I'm going to show you on the rubber here. The rubber has a home, and it does not like to leave that home. It takes quite a bit of force to get that to move, which means it is constantly fighting your suspension cycle. Whereas we take a look at our flex joint, this joint does not care where it's at. It does not have a resting point, which means it is not going to fight you when you're really trying to get after it, really trying to test your rig and see what it's capable of. And that not caring where it is what leads to a longer life and better performance versus the rubber. So let's take a look at the parts we've got that goes into this. As usual, we've got our flex ball, we've got our internal races, our end washers, our clamping hardware, and then we got this guy here. This is the cartridge. You can see the exterior is machined to match the contour of that factory rubber bushing, which means yes, it does go into both mounts. Same part number will press in to the cast as well as the welded mount on the axle. So with all that, let's get these in the JL behind me. All right, now as you saw on that axle on the rack, the bushings in these new JL JTs are just a little bit different from the moldings we're used to seeing on the older platforms. I've never done one of these, so I don't know exactly what tools I'm going to use yet, so you and I are going to learn together. We know it's going to be a barbaric process, but let's see what works. Now, we tried to go after this with a ball joint press, super common to use for this application. However, on this specific JL axle, we got a breather tube kind of fixed into the casting there, so we really couldn't get a cup on there. Decided to go after it with an air hammer, and as you saw, I just kind of worked side to side to side with really no help from the guy behind the camera.
What?
That's right.
Are you kidding me? Oh, are you kidding me?
So back and forth with the air hammer, used a punch bit, a chisel bit maybe would have worked better. You can kind of see I punched through. Well, yeah, there it's loose, it's out. You can see I kind of punched through with that punch bit. Maybe a chisel would have been easier, but either way, we got it out. Now we're ready to press in that cartridge and assemble a flex joint.
All by yourself?
All by myself. So it's time to press in our cartridge. We've got this nifty press-in tool that you can also find on the website. Now when I get it all up there, my hands are going to be all over it. You won't be able to see it. That's why I want to show you now. You're going to have this cup that goes on one side of the mount, and then you're going to take this kind of plate washer and then a regular washer, and that's going to go right inside the major ID of the cartridge, and we're going to press that all into the mount. So we're just going to get things kind of started and lined up here, just like any other pressing procedure. We want to make sure we're as straight as possible to make this go in as easily as possible, because even though this is made of nice quality material, it's not super thick. We're relying on most of the strength coming from what it's being pressed into. So we just want to make sure we're not going all ham on this thing and distorting it when we're trying to get it in there. And in she goes. So we're just going to keep turning until we get that, that machine shoulder to sit up in there nice and tight. So we've got the cartridge in, and it took some doing. You know, once we got towards the end there, we ended up having to use a breaker bar just to take it all the way in. So it will fight. Just, you know, make sure that that start is nice and straight and smooth. And then, yeah, keep going. On the JLJT, that machined part of the cartridge is going to get right inside that kind of beveled inner radius of the mount. And once it's in there, it's good. On the older models, that'll actually go further into the mount. Now on the back side, again, JLJT, we're going to get just a little bit of poke on the back side, not a lot. Older platforms, we know we're going to get a little bit more than that, so much so that we're able to actually peen the edge over just for a little bit better retention of that cartridge in the mount. This one, it was so tight getting in there, and we don't really have much to peen over. I'm not worried about this thing moving at all. And now for the joint assembly. Take our ball, we're going to get our grease. Today I'm using red and tacky, just kind of a personal favorite. No particular reason, other than it looks delicious.
It's delicious. Thank you, chef.
I mean, look at it.
It's like jelly.
Little snack, but don't eat it. I'm going to smear in the races like usual. And like most of our designs, other than our largest one, there's no nuts on this one. We're going to have an alternating 8-bolt pattern of a recessed for bolt head hole and then a threaded hole. So we'll grab one of these, send a couple into the recessed, flip it on over, get a race started, get our ball. All right, now my handful of parts here, get the primary assembly kind of started in there. Slides in pretty good. It's a little bit of a tight fit, but she'll go. We've got a couple bolts started in there, so we should be able to line up our race on the other side. The race is started. Now we can get that other end cap on and get our first 2 bolts started to thread in and start sucking this assembly together inside the cartridge there. Now, unlike putting these like in an arm or a male end or something like that, you're kind of working around a big fixed assembly inside the vehicle. So it's a little harder to see, a little harder to do, but still not too bad. Joints in, we've got a nice finger tight on all the hardware here. Now we're gonna go through and do more of a torquing sequence. Now, similar to what you might have seen in our track bar flex joint, the hardware's pretty small. It takes a pretty small Allen wrench to torque it. Not a lot of people are going to have this in any kind of, you know, driver format, so it's going to be hard to put an actual torque wrench on there. If you have that, by all means, that's the right answer. Use the torque specs that we provide in the instructions. If we don't, if we have to rely on the Allen wrench that we provide, the biggest thing that we're going to do is we're going to do everything in a crisscross pattern until we feel kind of a matching resistance, and then we're going to go to the other side. Do the same thing. It's kind of a wash, rinse, repeat sort of thing, and just keep going until everything feels nice and uniform. And then we're gonna, I personally, once I'm getting to the end, and I'll show you, I hold the wrench out towards the end so I can kind of gauge a little bit of deflection in it, and that's where we call it good. So let's hop on in here. Now I've gone side to side to side, and do this multiple times just until, again, you get that matching resistance on all of that hardware. And when I'm kind of deciding what a good torque is, like I said, without a torque wrench, I'm just going to kind of gauge the deflection. I'm holding the tool out here. I'm just going to gauge just a little bit of deflection out of that Allen wrench, and that feels plenty to me. And with all of our joints, I can't move it by hand. That's a good sign. So we're going to go ahead, bolt it back up together. Now that we've got the driver's side all buttoned up, we can move on over to the passenger side. Now on the JLJT, this passenger side mount is a little bit different than the driver's side mount, but no worries, we have the same process ahead of us. So let's get after it.
Oh, Derek, you want to be in the video?
You are now. All right, we're about halfway through our processes here, but we've got both bushings now out of the factory location, so we thought this might be a good moment to stop and kind of show you the difference, because this is a little bit more unique to the JLJT, the new platforms. The old platforms, side to side, they're very similar other than the construction of their mount, but the depth of the bushing, the type of bushing and everything like that is pretty much identical side to side. However, here, so this is the bushing that came out of the driver's side. You can see based on the width and the cleanliness here and the dirty here, this much was exposed. So we were able just to get, you know, an air hammer bit in there and just walk it back and forth until she's out. This is what came out of the passenger side. We had to go pretty barbarian on it. That whole body, which is now destroyed, this entire bushing sits in this entire mount, as you can see with our new cartridge pressed in there. So with that full engagement of that bushing, a little bit more of a bear to get out. Again, this is the JLJT front axle. The older platform is going to be a little bit more, you know, offset, so you can get behind it and walk it out like the driver's side. But this one, a little bit more of a bear. But as you can see, we did it. It's doable. Don't be afraid. Just get after it. All right, we got the second flex joint in there, so we're all wrapped up. Thanks for stopping by.